Wonderful. And good morning. Good morning to everyone. And welcome to our Unity Sunday morning experience. And I am Patty Yoon. I'll be your platform leader today. This morning, our music will be by various artists, our affirmations and meditations by Sam Jones. Our message will be delivered by Art Handy. And behind the scenes is Jessica and Sam making the Zoom happen with all the slides. And we are so blessed to have this service online that we've been able to continue this through all of this. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to be here this morning. Our greatest desire is that you are inspired by the music, the message, the meditation. You are a blessing to us. And the power of the month is power, and that is dominion. The power to have mastery, to dominate, to control. And that's basically to get things done, the power to get things done. And so, with that power of dominion of the month, let's say our mission statement on screen together. Inspiring spiritual transformation as a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community. And with that same power of dominion, let's say our statement of being, there is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. How wonderful. And again, we just want to thank all of you who are connected here today. We especially want to welcome those of you who are here for the very first time. We are honored to have you join us. We hope that we can bless you this morning, and we hope that we all get together soon to meet you in person. In fact, it's just around the corner. I'm so excited. That's so great. Unity is a worldwide ministry dedicated to the ongoing awareness of the spirit within all. We invite you to consider our teachings. If they work for you, fit into your life, wherever you may be on your spiritual journey, just take in what works for you and gently release the rest. We will now bless everyone who is watching. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ as you, just as you are. And now for prayer.
Good morning and happy Sunday, everyone. As we ready ourselves for a brief time of prayer, I just wanted to remind us all again to keep our hearts open wide for Edith Knox. Her daughter Suzette recently made her transition, and Edith is grieving at this time. So we want to make sure that we keep Edith in our prayers and in our hearts, and constantly lift her in the light during this difficult time. So right now, we'll just take a quick moment to open our minds and our hearts. Open our minds and our hearts to the pervading universal energy that is ever flowing around us, through us, in us, and as us. God the good, omnipotent. God the good, flowing as vibrant life throughout our entire beings, permeating our environments. And this vibrant life is whole, perfect, and complete. We are too whole, perfect, and complete in our spiritual nature. We're grateful for this knowing and this truth. And we wrap our arms around this awareness, and we allow wholeness to permeate our minds, soothe our minds, heal our minds, bring about the appropriate adjustments so that our minds can open and expand themselves to embrace God mind. We invite this permeating life energy to embrace our hearts, allow it to move us in the direction of healing our wounds, and allow it to synchronize our heartbeats with the heartbeat of the universe, and allows us to open and expand our hearts to all of life and hold compassion for all people and all beings. We affirm God's wondrous presence, and we claim the love, the light, the beauty, the wisdom, the understanding. We claim all of that as ours now, so that our eyes see beauty, love, light, and understanding. Our words express beauty, love, light, wisdom, and understanding. And we embody this same energy in all that we do, so that our actions are blessed, our steps are guided, and the energy that radiates from us is a comforting, healing energy that not only blesses us, but blesses all who we encounter. Thank you, God. And in the name and in the nature of the Christ presence that we all are, together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning here. And I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. 'Cause here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. sweetest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Get ready, my soul.
Get ready, my soul. As we prepare to be in that flow and the communion of spirit, as we prepare to deepen it, I invite you to join me in meditation. Gently close your eyes, soften your gaze, and simply breathe. Allowing this moment to be in your full awareness, this moment right now. The way your body feels in the chair, the way the air feels hitting your nostrils and going into your lungs. The sense of preparedness, preparing to be fully present. I invite you now to move your awareness to the very center of your being. That space where all things are possible. All things are love. The space of limitless acceptance. Acceptance of the peace and presence and power that resides as you, as me. And as we breathe into the center of our being, the knowing that we are whole, that we are worthy, that we are the limitless being brought here to be the full, unique expression of the presence of spirit as me, as you. And as we allow that center of our being to be expressive throughout our hearts, our minds, and our bodies, we allow that warmth, the light, the presence to be awakened with each and every breath we take as we enter into the silence. Gently inhale. And as you breathe, hear these words and allow them to simply be yours. I am whole. I am present in this moment as a unique expression of all that the divine nature is. In my humanness, I am whole. I am able to express my divine nature, and I am free. I am free from limitations and free from those thoughts and feelings that separate me from my good. I am whole. I am worthy, and I am present. I invite you to take a deep breath, reaching to the very depths of your body, breathing so deeply that as you prepare to exhale, you release the power and presence that is yours to be expressed. Once more, breathe deeply and exhale with power, knowing you are whole. I invite you to gently open your eyes. Bring your presence back into the space. And as we are here, I invite you to join me in speaking these affirmations. Breathing deeply as we prepare. I am nourished by the peace, presence, and power of spirit in my life. My wholeness and worthiness is inherent. I am peace, presence, and power. Take a deep breath and let's repeat the final affirmation. I am peace, presence, and power. And so it is.
When I dive into a deeper field of energy, when I have no eyes to see what lies ahead of me, I will be one with a vibration where boundless joy breeds wild elation. When I dive into a deeper field of energy, when I have exhausted human physicality, I will embrace my resurrection as I move through a new dimension.
Don't you worry, don't you fret. Trust me, I got no regret at all.
When to leave my body has become what's best for me, I will feel from a fresh perception what I have known since my inception.
So don't you worry, don't you fret. Trust me, I got no regret at all. Into space and out of time, I find my wings and learn to fly from a free fall.
When I dive into a deeper field of energy, when I dive into a deeper field of energy, when I dive into a deeper field of energy, when I dive into a deeper field of energy.
So don't you worry, don't you fret. Trust me, I got no regret at all. Into space and out of time, I find my wings and learn to fly from a free fall.
When I dive into a deeper field of energy.
When I dive into a deeper field of energy. Well, gang, we're going to be talking about mental health today. This particular talk I've had in my heart for a couple of years now, and I finally get to do it. Each time I wanted to do it that coincided with some sort of National Day of Mental Health Awareness. And every time I learned of what that period of time was, it had always passed. So this year, I knew it was coming, so I had this one locked and loaded. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And what I want to speak about today and what we'll be going into today is the subject of unity in mental health. Unity in mental health. I think this is a good subject to actually go into. And that ribbon that you see there on the monitor, that is the symbol, the national symbol for mental health awareness. And I believe that it is my personal belief, not just from reading books, but from my own journey and my own spiritual growth and my own struggles with mental health, that unless we really address this mental health piece, our spiritual efforts will only go so far, because the mental aspect of who we are is the portal through which all that is in spirit gets funneled through into our experience. So I think to go forward would be good to start off with a definition of what mental health is. And I did a lot of research yesterday and mental health statistics and things going on concerning mental health and what is actually going on in the world regarding this. And so I wanted to come up with a good definition, a good working definition of mental health. And there were a lot of different ones out there. But the one that I settled on is the one that you see there on the monitor from the National Education Authority in the United Kingdom, actually. Mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience that enables us to enjoy life and survive pain, disappointment, and sadness. It is a positive sense of well-being and an underlying belief in our own and others' self-worth. So mental health is this emotional and spiritual resilience that enables us to enjoy life and survive pain, disappointment, and sadness. So it's a definition that allows us to hold the breadth of life's experiences, the moments of celebration, of triumph, of victory, of beauty, happiness, and good times. And at the same time, the moments of sadness, loss, grief, disappointment, which is a part of life. It's actually a part of life. And it's that positive well-being that allows us to navigate through all of life's experiences with a sense of self-worth and the ability to identify the worth in other people. I think that's a pretty good definition of mental health. And I want to really spotlight that because it's important to understand, despite a lot of the messaging that we hear in our culture, when mental health is always brought up in the context of mental illness or mental disorder, we all have mental health. We all have mental health. We all have varying degrees of mental health. Since I made that universal statement, I'm going to make another universal statement. We all have struggled at some point in our lives in our mental health. There have been periods in our lives that we've gone through things where we have found ourselves, at least momentarily, in a bad mood or depressed or a little anxiety from dealing with our day-to-day experiences or difficult circumstances. We have all had that. I'm going to really put a pin on what I'm saying here. We all have mental health, all of us. And there have been points and experiences in our lives, difficult circumstances, where we have struggled with our mental health. If there's anyone out there that says that I have never struggled with my mental health, I'm going to be honest enough in saying to you that I love you. We've all struggled with that. So it's not just those people over there, all of us. I remember when I was in a crisis point in my life, when I was struggling with deep depression and deep despair. I was undergoing a particular challenge where I literally went through a 72-hour period of not getting any sleep. I mean, literally not a eye wink of sleep at all, because I was so depressed and so crushed with anxiety that I had to seek out professional help as well as spiritual modalities to get myself back on track or to get myself at a place of where I could experience more wholeness in my life. And when I went through this particular period in my life, it made me really, really sensitive to people who go through mental health struggles, people who go through severe mental disorder, and it made me really, really compassionate. And I made a commitment from that point that I wanted to do all that I can to really spotlight mental health and spotlight and give compassion to people, embrace people who were going through mental disorder, because it's a really serious thing. In our culture, although in recent years there's been an increased awareness of the importance of mental health, and there's increased compassion for people who are experiencing mental disorder, to my estimation, it's not enough. Why do I say that? As I was doing my research yesterday, I was shocked to learn that in our country, I want to make sure I say this right, we have the lowest ratio of mental health professionals we have the third lowest in the world. In other words, for every one mental health professional, there's a high number of people in the population. In other words, we don't have enough mental health professionals to really support our population. So that was a very startling thing for me to figure out. And so mental health, of course, it deals in the realm of psychology. And most of us understand psychology as the scientific study of the human mind and its functioning, especially as it relates to behavior in some sort of context. Now, I want to uncover something about the word psychology that is very, very important. Again, it's the study of the human mind and the human emotions relative to behavior. But that's not how psychology was always understood. When you look at the word psychology, it's comprised of two words, psyche and then ology. That word psyche comes from the Greek word psyche, which literally means soul. Some other translations, it means breath, and it means life. The other part of the word psychology comes from the Greek word logia, which means the study of. So psychology in its early understanding is the study of the soul, or the study of life and of breath. Isn't that very interesting? That's a far cry from how we understand psychology today, as the study of the mind and its cognitive function. Psychology, as the ancient Greeks and other ancient cultures understood it, had more to do with the study of the soul, the study of the deeper dimension of who we are that reaches back into our divine nature, as evidenced by the translations of breath and life. I think that's an important understanding. And I think that if we understood psychology like that today, we would have a very different attitude and put a very different importance on our mental health. What did Charles Fillmore have to say about psychology? What did he have to say about it? Well, I found a quote at truthunity.net that pointed to the book Keep a True Lent by Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity Movement, that talks about psychology. And I think it's very important how it is placed in spiritual life. And hopefully it'll come up there on the monitor, but I will just go ahead and read it. Religion becomes practical and effective in everyday life when it incorporates psychology in its litany. Without religion, psychology is weak in its fundamentals. And without psychology, religion fails to give proper attention to the outlet of its ideals. The fact is that religion, comprehended in its fullness, includes psychology. Jesus was a profound psychologist. I'm going to read this again for those of us that have problems with the word religion. And I'm going to read it again with updated language. Spirituality becomes practical and effective in everyday life when it incorporates psychology in its litany. Without spirituality, psychology is weak in its fundamentals. And without psychology, spirituality fails to give proper attention to the outlet of its ideals. The fact is that spirituality, comprehended in its fullness, includes psychology. Jesus was a profound psychologist. So at some point in our spiritual journey, as we engage in spiritual modalities, prayer, meditation, other spiritual modalities, sacred music, sacred geometry, relating to our crystals, and the other things that we do to enhance our awareness of our spiritual nature. If our spirituality just stays at that, and we don't engage in our thought life, in our emotional life, and we don't engage in processes that purify our thought life and our emotional life, and that brings our minds and our heart consciousness in integrity with our spiritual nature, then we don't realize all of what Spirit has for us and holds for us. If we're just into psychology and mental science, then although those techniques and those modalities are very helpful, it can lack a focus and a direction towards our greater unfoldment. And if we're really not careful, we can go through psychological processes and never come to a real sense of our own self-worth. Spirituality without psychology is flighty. And that's why sometimes some spiritual people are described as being out there. And if we go too far with spirituality without psychology, we can get into ways of spiritual narcissism. In other words, my thoughts create my life, and I only mind my thoughts to the degree and extent that I can bring about what I want, which is important. But the higher understanding of our thoughts creating our life is so that we can unfold and express the divine. So there's a difference in the spiritual understanding and in the mental understanding. And also, if I'm engaged in spirituality without psychology, then it leaves me open to where spirituality can be an escape from what is pleasant, from what is unpleasant and difficult in my life. I use spirituality to get away from difficult feelings that I need to feel and engage with. I use spirituality as an escape from the shadows that may need to be healed. There's a very famous term called spiritual bypassing, where we do exactly that, where we use spirituality as a way to escape what is difficult in our human lives. We don't want to do that either. So spirituality and psychology go hand in hand, So that's why my mental health, in dealing with our mental health and engaging in practices that enhance our mental health, is very important. And it's also very important to have compassion and having a loving embrace for those of us who are engaging in mental disorder. Mental illness describes a variety of emotion, thinking, and behavioral problems that vary in intensity and in duration and may recur from time to time. Major mental illnesses include anxiety, mood, eating, and psychological disorders. When it comes to mental illness and mental disorder, although there may be many causes that may have an effect on it, the two things that are the main drivers of mental illness and mental disorder is genetics and biology on the one hand, and environment on the other. We in Unity are learning a spiritual philosophy that requires personal responsibility to really engage, personal responsibility in terms of monitoring and managing our thoughts and monitoring our emotions and our heart resonance so that we can bring ourselves more into alignment and integrity with our divine nature. And certainly in our culture, we have things such as self-help, and we have the ethic of individualism and personal responsibility. But I got to tell you, when people who have genetic or biological driven mental illness or mental disorder, in other words, mental illness or disorder may run in their family, and so as a result of that, they experience some sort of mental disorder. We need to be very careful in not judging people who have that kind of mental disorder. I have seen people in New Thought engage in this kind of spiritual practice as follows. That person over there has clinically diagnosed depression. Nonsense. If they are depressed, it's because they are choosing to be depressed. I just heard someone say that the other day, and it took everything in me not to really get my rocket fired off. When there are people that have clinically diagnosed depression that comes from their genetics or that's hereditary, they are not choosing the states of anxiety and choosing the states of depression and choosing the bipolar disorder. As they live their lives, they learn how to manage it, and they recognize the signs when it comes alive. But when it hits them full force, although their intentions might want to go this way, their brain chemistry is wanting to go that way. They're not choosing that. So we need to be very careful about not holding judgment. And on the environmental side, despite all of our ethics of rugged individualism, rise above and overcome, the reality is some people's life conditions and circumstances overwhelm their psyche to the point of trauma, to the point to where there is mental breakdown and deterioration. You're not supposed to affirm those things, Art. Well, they happen. Don't believe me? Check out some statistics. 1 in 5 US adults will experience mental illness each year. 1 in 20 adults experience serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 US youth age 16 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. Major mental disorders: depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders. Mental illness and substance abuse disorders are involved in 1 out of every 8 emergency department visits by a US adult. 20% of people experiencing homelessness in the US have a serious mental health condition. 37% of adults incarcerated in the state and federal prison system have a diagnosed mental illness. 70.4% of youth in the juvenile justice system have a diagnosed mental illness. My wife, Kyra, can vouch for that because she's a correctional worker at the Juvenile Detention Center here in Sedgwick County. That should absolutely terrify us, the amount of youth, children, young people that are experiencing mental illness. 41% of Veterans Health Administration patients have a diagnosed mental illness or substance abuse disorder. Suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. Yeah, again, young people, 2nd leading cause of death. It's the 10th leading cause of death in total in the United States. The overall suicide rate in the United States has increased by 35% since 1999. 46% of people who died by suicide had a diagnosed mental health condition. 90% of people who died by suicide had shown symptoms of a mental health condition. When you talk about LGBTQ, beloved human beings, mental health disorder goes off the charts. And everything that I just read, all the statistics that I just read were before the pandemic, before the shutdown of everything where millions of people lost their jobs and lost their health insurance, before all the isolation that goes counter to our human nature for social connection and love and social relations. That just made mental health deteriorate all the more worse. Now, we can sit back and judge those people who weren't strong enough to tough it out. Or we can have and do what they really need, which is love and compassion, and know that they're not alone, and know that we love them. And while you are suffering, I'm going to hold you, and I'm going to love you, and I'm going to hold sacred space for you, and I'm going to love you all the way through. And also having the humility to know that if it weren't for that, it only takes a few difficult life circumstances for me to have mental deterioration to the point of mental illness. This mental illness is a serious thing. Now, in unity philosophy, out of all the wonderful unity literature that in educational materials that unity so wonderfully provides and has done so, for over 100 years. There's an assumption that is made in all the materials. The assumption is that the true student who consumes those materials are at a quality state of emotional health. There is a state of an emotional health where change your thoughts, change your life is not the correct prescription. The correct prescription is to be held and to have particular care administered to, so that a person can get to an appreciable level of health to where they can engage in the thought management processes that are taught in this wonderful spiritual philosophy. And it's my personal belief that if our philosophy is going to be relevant going forward, we need to hold space for those we need to hold space to really understanding and promoting mental health. And we really need to hold compassion for people who are struggling with mental health disorders and mental health illnesses, and help to love them to life and love them back to health, and to understand and really get clear and be humble on the fact that just because that person over there might be suffering from mental illness, I'm no better than them. All it takes is a couple of circumstances, difficult circumstances in my life, and I can have mental struggles as well. I'm not saying this because I read it in a book. I'm saying it because I went through my own mental health challenges, my own mental health struggles, where I had to get on my knees and pray and meditate and cry and curse the wind and pour my heart out to people who would listen, and engaged in psychosomatic modalities where I could put my rational mind to the side so that I could go deep into my body and excavate those emotional wounds and those deep feelings of shame that I had stuffed and buried, and that was limiting my spiritual growth and my spiritual progress. So I know of what I speak. And as Mr. Fillmore says, we've got to deal with our psychology in order to really embrace what spirituality has for us. There's actually a spiritual field of study called spiritual psychology. You ought to Google it sometime and really learn. And this is why Mr. Fillmore and his wife Myrtle, the other co-founder of the Unity Movement, taught us about managing our minds and dealing with our thoughts, taught us about speaking the word so that we can condition our minds to be healthy, to hold more of our divinity. Now, when it comes to mental health, there are many things that we can do to manage our mental health. And I say, just like we have spiritual practices, it's important to have mental practices and emotional practices, as well as physical practices, in order to deal with the whole of who we are, in order to embrace the wholeness that our spiritual nature is, that is wanting to unfold and manifest in our lives and our circumstances. So in the next slide, they're going to have a lot of different things that we can do to manage our mental health. And you see it coming up now. Coming up now. Getting enough sleep, exercise, eating good food, spending time with family and friends. Really, that thing there that we weren't able to do much of during the pandemic, now as we're coming out of the pandemic, we're able to be in our loved ones' physical presence. You know, we're able to hug them, provided we've gotten the vaccine, I guess. We're able to hug them and really embrace them and look in their eyes and feel their energy. That's very important to mental health. Being in touch with your feelings. Stop stuffing them. Stop listening to well-meaning spiritual teachings that say that we have to ignore our feelings. No, we don't. We have to embrace them. We have to feel them. We need to express them, because I'm here to tell you from personal experience, when we are deeply wounded and we try to stuff them and bury them and not acknowledge them, it will come back to ruin our spiritual progress sometime down the line. Prayer and meditation is important, because prayer and meditation helps to give us that sense that I'm being divinely supported, And I don't have to manage everything all of the time. And it increases our awareness of our spiritual nature, and that helps to fortify and nurture our minds. Service and contribution is very important because it allows us to embody compassion, to think about others, or it allows us to take on an idea that's bigger than our present circumstances. So if you're really having a hankering for service and contribution right now, where our community is doing a refresh and renewal project where we're refreshing our church and giving it a new look. So you can lose yourself in that process. Be aware of your stress and deal with it in a positive way. All of us exhibit stress. And it's important that we have practices in our lives to where we can positively manage that stress. Seeing things from another's point of view doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but if we're able to see things from another's point of view, that in itself is a stress reducing activity because it less otherizes the other person. And you can identify the humanity from which that person comes to that differing point of view than yours. One of my personal favorites, spending time in nature. Very important. It's very healing. Self-acceptance. Accepting oneself for who you are. Not allowing society's rules and standards and definitions to cause one to deny their authentic self. Explore your creativity. Forgiving yourself for moments in time where you weren't your best or you didn't show up. Take a break, whether that's taking a 15-minute break from a stressful activity or whether that's taking a well-deserved vacation. Learning and being humble enough to ask for help. Contrary to our notions of rugged individualism, we are not designed to go it alone. And that's especially true when it comes to mental health. If I'm struggling, and I do this sometimes, I'll ask for a hug. Ask for someone to hold me in prayer. And the one that's not up there that I meant to put up there is professional therapy, counseling, and treatment. There's nothing wrong with that. I can do Unity and still have a therapist. And for a time in my life, I did that. And I anticipate that I'm going to go for therapy again because I want to do mental tune-ups from time to time. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. There's nothing wrong with seeking medications if you need them. There's nothing wrong with seeking out counseling. Again, it's that recognizing that I'm struggling and I need help, and so I'm going to reach out for that help. Friends, beloveds, it is wise of us, and I'm extending the invitation to engage in embracing our mental health, recognizing that we all have mental health, and engaging in practices where, much like we engage in practices to exercise our physical bodies and keep our physical bodies healthy, we engage in practices to keep our mental health good and strong. Let us hold and have compassion for those of us who struggle with mental illness and disorder. They need our love, our compassion, and our prayers, not our judgment, not our shaming. And it will be healthy for us to promote a culture and a world that is inclusive of people who struggle with mental illness and disorder. So that way they have the community that they need in order to be healthy and whole. The same things that we desire. As always, friends, I hold you in sacred space. And into that space, I speak a simple word of prayer. Life, light, and love to you all. God's wholeness be with you.
Wow. Thank you, Art. Oh my goodness, we are so blessed here at Unity of Wichita by the music, the message, the meditation, and education. I learned a lot today, so this was great for me too. Wow, thank you, Art, and so brave in so many ways, outstanding in so many ways. And so if you are so inspired to give a tithe or a donation, we just invite you to go to our website at www.unityofwichita.org/donations. It will also be in the chat box for a secure financial gift. You can also send a check directly to the church at Unity of Wichita, 2160 North Oliver, Wichita, Kansas, 67208, or bring it by yourself during regular business hours. And whatever amount you are guided to give, just hold it over your heart. Just visualize your electronic tithe. And let's say together our offering blessing. Divine love flowing from me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive, and I am grateful. Amen.
Thank you, Patty. It's a beautiful day in our consciousness, isn't it? And as we spoke about mental health and the need for connection, that brings us back to coming back together in person. I'm so excited, you guys. So yesterday we had a big day at Unity of Wichita. We had 12 people in the building working on the building yesterday, and we had so much fun, and we had good food, and we totally enjoyed ourselves. So I invite you to join us. We are in the final pushes to being ready for June 6th. We've got Monday and Tuesday from 10 a.m. to noon, Thursday from 1 to 3. And if you want to come at other times, just shout out, give me a shout out, give me a call. We'll check into it and we will get you connected. So that means that June 6th is right around the corner. We are going to have some changes. There's going to be some changes in our order of service. There's going to be some changes in the music, the way that that's presented, and it's going to be good, because we are going to get to see each other face to face without a screen between us. So with that, I invite you to call into your vision, into your awareness, the youth department. The youth department gathers at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings on Zoom, and Kelly does an amazing job. As we were in the building yesterday, I took a couple of people who have never been in the building ever before, but they came yesterday and helped. And they worked for a few hours and bought us lunch. And so we went through the building, and they thought that our youth department was so amazing. And as I walked through, it was so beautifully organized. Kelly has been working so hard. So we're ready for the youth to come as well. So with that vision, let's hold our kiddos, the youth workers. Jessica's trying to keep up with me with these slides. Sorry, gal. And let's bless our youth department. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ as you, just as you are. And so it is. So we move it right back on over to Mr. Art Handy as we use the prayer of protection.
And for you big kids out there, we don't forget about you. We love you, and we honor you, and we honor your presence, and we honor your energy. You are the Sunday experience. So now we will lovingly move into our prayer of protection, and we will affirm the vibration of peace. For those not familiar with the prayer, it's there on the monitor. Let us affirm it together from the deepest part of our being. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Yes, wherever we are, God's peace is as well. Yearning to be expressed through willing minds and hearts. And with that awareness in mind, let us simply affirm, I claim God's peace now. I am peace. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. God bless you.